Welcome back, Shalligators. Today we're going to talk about a couple I don't think we've ever discussed, but you guys have requested them a bunch, and they literally just creep me out so bad I didn't want to even have them here on the channel. But there's some news, so we're going to cover them. Elon Musk and GRIMES. GRIMES. Why, girl? Claire, why? Why this stage name? Was yeast infection already copyrighted? Why GRIMES? Hemorrhoid didn't fit on your merch? I've never heard her music ever because I literally don't even want to be like, I'm listening to GRIMES. I can't with that. And these two, like I said, creep me out so fucking bad. Like the picture of them at the Met Gala, not this year, but the one before. Like if you die and go to hell, this is what you see before the devil takes you. This is what you see. And I am actually a fan of Elon Musk. And we're going to talk about why. And we're going to talk about not only the pros and cons of dating an exceedingly rich and successful man, but how to handle a narcissist. And now let me say up front, I do not believe Elon is simply just a narcissist. That is one facet of who he is. I believe Elon Musk is a psychopath. To me, he's one of the clearest textbook examples of a psychopath I've seen in a long time. Now, a psychopath and a sociopath are different. We'll talk about that also. And not just how to deal with a narcissist and also by extension kind of a psychopath, but we're going to focus on narcissists because their personal peccadillos are unique and there kind of is no way to deal with a psychopath. But there are more narcissists than psychos out there. I mean, thank God, because psychos are pretty dangerous. But one thing you need to know is that you cannot change them. If you get nothing else from this video, you cannot change a narcissist. But I will tell you how to manipulate them back to get maximum positive outcome. Because sometimes there's someone you're stuck with. Maybe they're your baby daddy, like GRIMES is dealing with. Maybe they're a parent. Maybe they're a boss. Maybe they're a best friend. Or maybe you are the narcissist. I've spoken openly about the fact that I had a therapist tell me I was a narcissist with a lowercase n. That's what you always say. A lowercase n. You're like a petite narcissist. And as I read through this article that we're going to reference, I was like, yeah, some of this kind of sounds like me. So I can tell you from inside, it takes a thief to catch a thief. I can tell you what works and really what would actually make a situation a lot worse. But before we get started, we have a new Shalligator getaway that just launched. Now, you guys have been hearing me talk about my Trova trip to the Dominican Republic with you guys in February. I think we have one spot left for that because one chickadee had to drop out because she got into med school. It's so exciting. So sad to lose her, but so excited. Now we have room for one more. I'm very excited for her. But we are launching a brand new trip. Costa Rica. We're going over Memorial Day weekend for a full week in 2022, next year, to Costa Rica, to the West Coast. We're going to do things like volcano hikes, waterfall visits, kayaking, snorkeling, cocktails, dance class, tons of hang time with me. I'm going to be with you 24 hours a day. And I'm bringing our own dedicated yoga teacher and photographer. So we are going to have a ton of content creation. If you want to take some sexy pics on the beach, some really cool active hiking photos, just some great Instagrams for, posterity to remember the trip by, this is going to be perfect trip. So go ahead and click the link down below. It's another trip with Trova. And please note that this is not a Trend 45 trip. That's who we went to Mexico with. This is not affiliated with Trend, and it's going to be really fun. And I know that I had told you guys we were going to go to Europe, like maybe Scotland and Paris, but this vaccine shit, I'm sorry. No, I'm not taking you guys someplace where you have to have a fucking vaccine passport. No, I think that this is absurd. I'm not vaccinated. I'm not saying I never will be vaccinated, but I've had COVID. I have antibodies. I'm sorry, no. And so I'm not going someplace where you have to be vaccinated and run the risk of something on the itinerary you need a vax to get into. No. And if that means we can't go to Europe for a few years, so fucking be it. Europe's loss is Latin America's gain, baby. So we're going to go places that don't mandate that because I'm not anti-vax, I'm anti-mandate. I do not believe in anything you're not allowed to question. And the censorship that's going on, I mean, who knows? This video might get pulled out of the algorithm because I'm saying this shit, but we cannot abide this because even if you've gotten the vaccine and even if you don't really care one way or the other, one day there's going to be a mandate of something you don't want to do. And then what? The precedent will have already been set. And then you're going to be like, well, they're freedom. And the people like me are going to be like, oh, now you give a shit about freedom. It's ironic that the same people who say my body, my choice, do you only mean that from the waist down? Or do you mean that, okay, if they can decide whether or not, they get an abortion, as they should decide because it is their body and their choice, yo, bro, that's a two-way street. So you got to walk it like you talk it. And that is my rant for today. Weird that Nicki Minaj has become the tip of this spear, but you know what? Whoever makes the first domino fall and people rising up against totalitarian power, good for them. Even if it's Nicki Minaj. But we're not here to talk about Nicki Minaj. We're here to talk about Elon and Grimes. Yeah, so these two broke up. They've been together for a few years. They have a baby named something unpronounceable. I think you pronounce it like the AOL old school internet dial-up tone. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I didn't really see this breakup coming because it's like they've made it work this far. And it seems like to get over the initial hump of dealing with Elon Musk, if you can do that, like either you're just hardwired to deal with someone like him or you kind of know how to handle him. And it's like, okay, like he has had an extremely checkered romantic history. Now, his first wife, Justine Musk, highly encourage you to Google her. She did this article for either Marie Claire or Allure like a long time ago, like 10 years ago. And it was not flattering. She had 5 sons with him, 5 sons. And I remember studying their divorce before he was like the big name that he is. I remember studying his divorce in college because it was so contentious. She like ended up on welfare and he had already sold PayPal by this time. And it was truly one of the most contentious California divorces ever. It was just appalling. So I've always had this like vision of him as this really shitty dude in terms of his relationships. And then he married Tallulah Riley. And he has this thing where he makes all his wives become blonde. It's weird. Then he dated Amber Heard, who's her own sack of fucking crazy. I think she's a psychopath too. So is Johnny Depp. They're two psychopaths. And we did a video on it. And like, anyway, what do you think about those two? Anyway. But like I said, I am a fan of Elon from an innovation standpoint. You cannot argue with what this man has done. I actually dated, I'm going to get upset talking about it because I'm still super twisted over him. I dated a boy this summer who worked at SpaceX. Yeah, oh my God. I'm like I hope he's not watching. But I kind of heard from the inside out what Elon was like. And sure enough, like we would be like laying in bed at like 2 a.m. and he would get emails from Elon, like to the company. And they were like 7,000 words. And they were like deranged, but also lucid at the same time. Like they were like kind of manic, like very intense. Like I had an idea and we need to be doing this and this needs to be a priority. But it was also very like lucid the way it was structured. And I'm like, I can't imagine working for a man like this, like submitting a presentation to this man. And there have been a lot of articles that have come out in exposés about Elon's management style, which is basically he's having a bad day. Stay the fuck out of his way because he could literally walk down the hall and he's done this. Been like, that was your fault. You're fucking fired. And he's talking to some of the most brilliant people on planet Earth. Like he's not walking down the hall at where? Cinnamon at the airport. You got it. And just firing people willy-nilly. Like he's talking to the 1% of the 1% of intelligentsia and being like, you're not good enough. Like, okay. So, yeah. So let's talk about the pros and cons of dating a really rich dude. I am overheating in this sweater. What have I done? Because I suggested this as a topic, and you guys, some of you were like, I think we know the pros and cons. And some of you were like, oh my God, yes. Because the pros seem obvious. Well, he's rich, and that's a good thing, right? He's powerful. That's amazing. In the thing Justine Musk, his first wife, wrote that sort of essay she did, she talked a lot about how the lines between employees and wife blurred. And he would talk to her like she was an employee. And she would call him out on that. She's like, I'm not your employee, I'm your wife. And he would say to her, if you were my employee, I would fire you. Can you imagine your husband saying that to you? I mean, The writing's kind of on the wall. But when you deal with someone at that level, they kind of can't turn it off. If they could switch between these two roles, it's almost like they wouldn't have the intensity they needed to achieve the things that they're achieving. You know, there kind of is no off switch, because if there is an off switch, they as high achieving people, and you, I know you're a high achieving woman. If you're watching this, I'm a high achieving woman. This is our Achilles heel, is the work-life balance. And we think of that as like, I don't have time for yoga and my bed's never made. That's how it can manifest. What it actually, and for me, especially because like I work from home, I'm checking my phone all the time. Like I am always working, and I've shared a lot about what it's like to be an influencer on on YouTube, and I've done a 3-part series, and that was the big thing. It's like you never stop working, and because of that, you can't turn it off. And even like my mom will like call me out. She's like, if I'm trying to give someone advice, she's like, you get your YouTube voice on. Your voice goes up a notch, like you're speaking on camera, and you start basically lecturing. She's like, you need to take it down a notch and speak to people like they're a friend. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And it's hard. It's really hard. Like, and whatever profession you're in, or maybe it's not even a profession, it's like your work, your studies are consuming everything. It is hard to switch gears, right? And to take it down a notch. And women are expected to. We have to be like soft and cuddly at home and just like pumpkin spice everything. And then we go to work and we're like a boss bitch. Boss, hashtag boss babe. You know? And it's like, fuck, dude. Like, I'm in this zone. Can't I just stay in this fucking mode? Well, guys can. And the more successful they become, the more they can stay in that boss bitch role, you know, that Elon is constantly in. And they also have the luxury of options. Now, there's a saying that a man is only as faithful as his options. It's true. This is a con of dating rich men. Are they going to cheat on me? Yeah, girl. Yeah, they probably will. You know why? Because they can. Because they can. Not true. Every man can. Even the dumpiest, schlubbiest doof in the world can go down to any gas station in Tampa and pick out some bitch named Crystal full of meth marks and get it on, right? This is true. It's different when you're at that level where women are throwing themselves at your man because of his money, his status, his power, his fame, his whatever. And it's a rare bird that is going to stay faithful. And you should know that. You should walk in the light of the truth on that and emotionally insulate yourself for the consequences. Whether that's you're banging the pool boy. Whether that's, you know what? As long as he comes home to me and I'm number one and like he keeps filling my bank account and filling my closet, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with managing expectations. We all have a different metric of happiness. And if you don't care that he's fucking chicks in Vegas when he's on the private jet with George Soros, okay. Seriously, like, okay. But walk in the light of the truth. And this is especially true, again, when you have a man who's high achieving and used to wielding power. For that man to have all this power all day long and then come home and give power to a woman. Now, sometimes that feels very good. It feels good for us, right? I just want to be the girl. I always say that in relationships, like, I just want to be the girl. Like, just decide where we're going to dinner. Tell me what to do in bed. I don't know. I make decisions all day. Right? And some men like that too. That's why a lot of CEOs have a dominatrix. Seriously. Because people need balance. But some people like Elon, are not merely rich. They're not merely brilliant. They're not merely successful. They are psychopaths and they're narcissists. Let's talk about psychopaths for a minute. What's the difference? What do you mean? She's a psycho. Oh, he's a psycho. You're just being hyperbolic. No, I'm not. It's an actual thing. The difference between a narcissist, a sociopath, and a psychopath, well, I mean, there's some debate about what creates a socio and a psycho. I have always heard, and the studies I find to be the most believable are ones that chalk it up to something called spindle neurons. Your spindle neurons create basically empathy. And if you have too many spindle neurons, I know a friend who has way too many because she feels every single emotion on planet Earth, right? You're basically a depressive. You're kind of emo. Like you just feel everything. Oh. If you have too few, you're a sociopath or a psychopath. You don't feel that empathy towards others. And it is a spectrum. And some people can be a little socio. The way some people can be a little narcissistic. However, narcissism is a personality disorder. And that's characterized by something that the general school of thought is it is nurture, not nature. It is something not that you're born with, but it's something that's created. Narcissists can be created by narcissistic parents, because a hallmark of a narcissist is they don't really care about anyone's feelings but their own. And that can happen when they, as a child, were denied empathy about their own feelings. No one cared about them, so they don't really care about anyone else. And because they have that wound where they were ignored, they are obsessed with getting their own needs met. They're obsessed with how the world sees them because their parent, their primary caregiver, did not give them enough attention. That can happen. It can also happen in the opposite. People who are overloved and just they have this messiah complex, as it's called, where they're like this beautiful golden child and they've been told that the world kind of revolves around them, and that's been demonstrated by parents, and the kid believes it and they grow up thinking they're the center of the universe. Yeah. So it can come from two different points. But the difference between socio and psycho is risk-taking. Risk-taking. Also violence. For sure. You know, we see that. It's the warrior gene. But if you look at people like Elon, you look at people like Trump, risk-taking? Yeah. I think we're there. Like, no one's really taking bigger risks in the world than they are. So I think he's a really fascinating study of psychopathy, you know? And I wouldn't say he's a benevolent psychopath. I think he probably could kill someone if he got mad enough, and who knows, maybe he has. But I think he's an interesting example of the CEO psychopath, and an overwhelming number of CEOs are in fact psychopaths, studies have shown, because they possess a ruthlessness that is requisite to getting ahead in business. Think of what you could achieve if you didn't care about anybody else. Think of who you would step on. Think of how you would throw people under the bus, how you would take credit for their work, how you would gank ideas from other people and adopt them as your own to get in good with the boss before taking his job. Think of who you'd fuck to get to the top. Right? If you don't have those neurons or whatever to give you that pause and be like, this is wrong, the world is your oyster. Interesting. But we're going to focus on Elon, not so much as a psychopath, but as a narcissist. Because like I said, narcissists are far more common than psychopaths. And truly, I've done a video on how to deal with a psychopath boss, because I had one. I had one. And the answer is stay the fuck out of their way. Stay out of their way. Be the gray man. Like you just barely exist. You don't attract attention while you look for another job. Believe me. This is not the answer I wanted to give you guys. It's not the answer I wanted to hear. But I read a lot of books on this, a lot of studies, because I was looking for like the angle and the answer. You know, I like war, and you know I like strategy, and I'm like, I can figure this out. I can defeat them. No, you can't. Because the person who cares less will always win. The person who, there's like this saying in like fighting, who wins? The smart fighter or the crazy fighter? It's the crazy fighter, because they'll do what the smart person won't, because they'll take risks as a psychopath would. So we're going to move psychopaths to the far end here. And we're going to focus on narcissism, because yeah, it's far more common. You might run into it. And like I said, you might even kind of be one. So we're going to reference an article today by Miss Karen Arluck. She's a licensed clinical social worker. She wrote this article for Psychology Today, and it's really good because it really breaks down how to deal with a narcissist that you might be stuck with, you know? And it's not just like, you know, love them through it or like get away from them. Like that's great. And sometimes you can't. Or sometimes you are in love with someone who is exhibiting narcissistic traits and you don't want to leave them. It's not all bad. I've also done a video on traits of a narcissist you should adopt, using people like Kim Kardashian as an example. Like, she's a great self-promoter. She's very, very resilient. She falls down, gets humiliated, fails, burns out, gets canceled. She's right back the fuck up again. Because inherently, she believes she's a winner. And when people are like, you're stupid, she's like, no, I'm not. No. This is why I've been successful. I have a resilience and a grit that is possibly rooted in narcissism. You can call me whatever you want. I just don't believe you. I don't believe it, Like maybe I'm lacking some spindle neurons too and I'm a bit of a sociopath, but like, okay. And this is something you can borrow from them. You can cosplay as a narcissist to propel yourself through difficult times, right? So the first order of business is to envision a narcissist like you would someone who had a sunburn, right? Picture them with a psychological sunburn. You touch a normal person, hey buddy, what's up? No big deal. You do that to someone with a sunburn, ow! Oh my God, why did you do that? They're mad, they're blaming you, they're hurt, they're wounded, they're now angry, they're looking for a fight, right? That's kind of like a narcissist. If you poke them in the wrong way, that's exactly how they become. They are constantly living their life trying to avoid having their psychological sunburn poked at. And if it is poked, what they call a narcissistic injury, they don't handle it well. They can become very retaliatory. It can be an inflammatory thing to do. It can basically escalate an argument, take it from a 2 to a 10. They can become passive aggressive or flat out aggressive. They can cut you down, take a fight from like small to large. I don't react well when people come for me. You guys have seen me clap back at people and it is not fucking pretty. I go for the throat, partly because you're in my house. You pull bullshit on my actual property, you're going to get a face full of buckshot. You pull bullshit in my digital property, you're going to get the same with my words. Okay? I will crucify you along the Appian way to make an example out of you. Part of it's narcissism. I don't like it when people say things like, you're old and you're ugly. I don't react well to that. And you know what? I don't fucking need to because this is my house. Anyway. But keep this in mind when you're dealing with a narcissist. Let us read. Even if you're always on your best behavior, a narcissist may still perceive something you do as an affront, an injury, an insult. That being said, avoid doing or saying anything negative to them in a public setting, because remember, they're hyper concerned with how other people see them, as they are especially sensitive to feeling publicly humiliated, like a family dinner, in a boardroom, at a party. If you absolutely must confront them about something and they're likely to feel criticized by it, wait until they're calm and then sandwich the comments. Okay, so the sandwich approach is an excellent approach to giving feedback. It's positive, negative. It's like a little Oreo. So here's an example. My ex-boyfriend Max, who I'm still very close with, is the king of the sandwich approach. He's very good at it, and he knew exactly how to handle me because, again, I'm a little petit narcy. So he would say things like if I went berserk on someone who was mean to me on the internet, he'd be like, you know what, babe, like, you are so eloquent and you're so good with your words, and it's just, I've never seen someone who can speak and like convince the way you can. And instead of going after people in that like really intense jugular way, if you kind of softened it and made it a little bit more subtle so that only the really smart people understood what you were saying, people would love you even more. That's a sandwich approach. You're so eloquent. People love you. Maybe tone it down a little bit, right? And I received that message so much better than him being like, you sound fucking insane when you say things like this. Like, who do you think people are going to like you more when you go berserk like that? You say something like that to me, like suddenly my big black leathery wings, like this demon bat from hell, comes unfurling to life. I don't take it well, right? And look, whether you're dealing with a narcissist or not, this is a good approach. Very few people do handle direct criticism. This is stamping. The sandwich approach is going to get you far in life, no matter who you're dealing with, no matter what kind of personality. It's charm. And what is charm? Manipulation. And manipulation is how the world works. Another point. Try to be their admiring audience whenever possible. This is crucial because we know narcissists they're cold-blooded in the sense that they live off of flattery. That's very, very important to them. And some narcissists have an extremely high self-esteem, but then they need the world to like prove it. It's like, what do you mean you don't think I'm the best? I know I'm the best, so you need to like step up and fucking prove it, right? Others are coming from a place of being wounded, but who cares? I don't think that's Elon. I don't think it's me. I don't think it's Kim K. I think we think we're cool and we want the world to agree with us. Anyway, but listen, if you can kind of position yourself as a fan of the narcissist, still maintaining power and, and your own agency in the relationship, but you will therefore not be seen as a threat to them. And therefore, they're not going to try to control you or dominate you or cut you down. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Shallon, this sounds really shitty. Like, wow, so I just have to like kowtow to this lunatic and this egomaniac for what? I don't know, girl, for what? Why are you doing this? Can you get away from this person? Then you should. If this is not sitting right with you, then you should get away from this person. But again, like we said at the beginning, there are instances in which you can't. You are stuck with someone for the next month, for the next year, for the next lifetime. So you can buck this trend and you can be like, no, I'm going to call them out. Okay, things probably aren't going to be smooth sailing for you. I'm telling you how to win a game, and this is peace. We're after peace, not victory, by operating inside the confines of the rigidity of this personality disorder. Is it fair? No. And if it's so unfair, it's untenable, leave. Leave. Okay? It's also important to set boundaries, right? If you have someone who calls you and to bitch and bitch and bitch, and they're that friend who just uses you, make it a point. Either you don't answer the phone. Hey, I'm just not really feeling phone calls lately. I'm too anxious. Let's text. Or you only respond to them after 6 p.m. or the weekends or whatever it is. They're going to figure out you're not an easy target. They have an ego need that has to get met, and they will find a way to meet it. It's like a drug addict, basically. Like if their one dealer isn't available, they'll find drugs someplace else, right? So let them run that game on someone else, and you are going to protect your peace. Another point that I'm adding in here is, and from my own experience as the petite narc, validate their feelings. I remember when I was in college dating my college boyfriend, and he was like in California visiting, and me and my mom were in the car, and I was having some sort of tantrum about something. I don't even know what it was. I'm pretty sure I was hangry, the root of most of my tantrums. And he was basically pouring gas on the fire. Like, you know what? I told you should have had a snack before we left the house, and you didn't. And now we're out and about, and we're not stopping for lunch for another hour, you know? And I was just like, rah! Like I was breathing fire. That was only making things worse. And I remember my mom, and I don't think she thought I could hear, she turned to him and she patted him on the hand, and she's like, you just have to know how to handle her. And she's like, honey, like I know you're hungry. We're going to swing through CVS, go get a granola bar, and then we'll be fine. And she's like, I'm so sorry you're hungry. I know how annoying that is. And I was like, thank you. I am hungry. I don't need to go to CVS. It's all right. I can wait till lunch. It's fine. I can wait. And she's like, see, I just needed to be validated instead of being like, well, I told you so. That really doesn't calm anyone down. It's like when a guy says, relax. Oh, okay. Thank you for turning this up to 10 billion. Thank you for pouring this can of gas on me. So sometimes just validating a narcissist or someone who's in a narcissistic moment, whether they're a full-on narc or not, it really can dial it down. It's like, I know, I can't believe he ghosted you either. That is so ridiculous. He ghosted you because you were calling him 15 times a night. But for my own emotional peace of mind right now, I'm not going to pour that gas in the fire. I'm just going to be like, yeah, I'm so sorry. Fuck him. What a douche. He could have at least broken up with you via text. I know, he could have. Right? Narcissists need to be validated, either because they don't think they're good enough, but again, this is not the majority of cases, or because they are right. I'm right. Why the fuck can't everyone see how right I am? So if you're like, you are right, they're like, yeah, I'm right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. It's like they have that little need met, and then their brain can calm down. It's like, all right. Yeah. Every human wants to be heard and seen. We do. That's why in conversation, a key way to make friends is paraphrasing, you know, and not just paraphrasing if someone's like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. Like my husband said he was going to pick up the kids and he didn't. And so now I have to leave work early to go get him and blah, blah, blah. Instead of saying that's annoying, you say, oh my God, I hate it when people disappoint us. Is it not? It's like, can you just do what you said you were going to do? And they're going to be like, right? Why is it so hard? Don't tell me you're going to do it if you're not. I know. That's paraphrasing. You're mirroring back not what people are saying. Yeah, he didn't pick up the kid. It's like, I know that. I just said that. You just said that. And here I am saying it back to you. I am paraphrasing. Are we friends? But if you mirror back the sentiment, people feel heard because they communicate with the topic, didn't pick the kid up. But the issue, people are disappointing. People don't respect my time. I can't count on my husband to do what he says he's going to do. If you can validate that, people feel bonded to you. She really gets me. She gets it. Ugh. I want to talk to her about more stuff. She just gets it. So use that in context of a narcissist. So here's a big thing to avoid though. Don't call them a narcissist. Don't call them a narcissist. I mean, think about it. People have probably called you some version of a narcissist. Selfish, self-absorbed, uncaring, a bitch, ruthless, whatever it might be. These are all sort of synonyms for narcissist, which people throw around very casually these days, like throw around psychopath, just meaning sometimes you're trying to focus on your own needs and your boundaries and putting yourself first, and someone's like, you are a narcissist. My mother called me a narcissist recently. I hope she's not watching this. I don't think she is. But I was home in California and we were talking about the vaccine, and she's very pro-vaccine and she's very annoyed with me, and it's truly become like a rift in our relationship that I'm not getting it. And I'm like, and this is before it was FDA approved. And by the way, it's only recently FDA approved. Things take 10 years to get FDA approved. This not one. But this is before even that. And so the vaccine they were giving out was FDA authorized, which is not the same as approved. Approved means they have checked these boxes. Peer reviewed, case study, blah, 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 long-term data. Authorized means, all those boxes, we don't need those. We're just, we're going to approve it. It's fine. Go ahead. We're approving it. The CEO of Pfizer isn't vaccinated? He had to cancel a trip to Israel because he's not vaccinated. The CEO of Pfizer. Gavin Newsom's kids aren't vaccinated either. Governor of California, who's making all these draconian mandates, he's not vaccinating his own children. But I digress. But I had pointed this out to my mom. I'm like, I'm not putting something experimental in my body. Yeah, I put Botox. Yeah, I put fillers. Those have 10-year track records. They're FDA approved, right? Like, every drug I take is FDA approved except for this one. So I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. I'm a data-driven person. And she's like, so you're just going to potentially expose the rest of society. I'm like, well, if they have the vaccine, they're not exposed. So if I don't use an umbrella, it doesn't mean someone else's umbrella doesn't work, but okay. And she's like, so you're just putting your body over everyone else's? And I was like, yes, you accidentally arrived at the exact right conclusion. Yes, I am. Show me one animal on planet Earth, one, that puts the safety of stranger animals, different species, over their own. Would that animal still exist? Or would Darwinism weed out that level of decision making? And she called me a narcissist. I was like, cool, I'm a narcissist. I put myself before I put others. Sorry. I'm doing what's best for me, not what's best for stranger animals. So my point is, when you call someone a narcissist, they don't forget it. I was also like, I know that I am. A doctor has told me that. Thanks. But it's a very incendiary phrase. And again, when we talk about fights, peace or victory, you're probably not going to gain victory over this person. Why? They're more ruthless and they're willing to do things you're not willing to do, right? They're just operating in a different way, on a different level. They're going to take it there in a fight. They're going to put you down. And again, if this is all odious and you can get away from this person, get the fuck away from him. But if you're after peace, you got to play this game and don't throw gasoline on the fire by calling them a narcissist. And we are going to end this video as we started it. If you get nothing else out of this, if you remember nothing else, you will not change them. You will not change them. Why? Honey, this is hardwired in from 0 to 7 years old. That's when this shit takes effect. And it is real hard to undo that. Also, most narcissists lack the awareness to realize that that's what they are. And they like it. They like it. Kim Kardashian's life has turned out pretty well based on her narcissism. She's resilient. She's self-possessed. She's driven. She's a self-promoter. Kind of's working out. Like, I would rather swing to the narcissist side. I always say this because I hate victims. I hate the victim narrative. I hate people who define themselves by like all their bad points. It's like, I would rather be braggy than be a victim. I would rather skew towards a narcissist than a depressive, pitiful, emo, weepy mess. That shit doesn't inspire anyone. That's not interesting. That's not sexy. That's not dynamic or magnetic. Narcissists can be. I mean, they can also be revolting and obnoxious, of course, which I'm sure that I am many times. But I still think it's better than someone who is a consummate, relentless, unending victim. Unfortunately, spending too much time around a narcissist who grinds you down will turn you into that exact thing. Not undeservedly, not, imaginarily. You will feel like a victim because you are a victim to someone like that. So again, if you can get away from this kind of person, do it. And maybe you're like, are you saying people should get away from you? I mean, I think I'm pretty self-aware, and I really try to check myself when I get into my like tantrums or whatever, or when I have my narcissistic injuries. But that's kind of why I do this career. It's because it fulfills so much of what I need psychologically and emotionally that when I'm dating someone, I can just be the girl. I'm very self-actualized in what I do. And if I don't feel self-actualized, I have learned to like force myself to get that need met on my own, warm-blooded as I can be, come up with a new project, new jewelry line, new this, new venture, versus making my partner. Well, why aren't you complimenting me more? Do I look pretty or do I look fucking gorgeous? Oh, I bet the waitress at Chili's looks gorgeous. I don't go there, right? I'm really focused on recognizing how I feel at all times, which means I can feel every single emotion, right? When you're in touch with your emotions, that means you have to feel them all, which is then you run into the hardship of trying to let go of certain feelings and have them just be those clouds passing through the sky. Non-attachment. Okay. I'm only going to attach myself to helpful emotions. Okay. But I don't know that all narcissists are going to do this. And I don't know where I am in the narcissism scale. I don't know if I'm like at a 0 to 5 or if I'm like at a 98 to 100. I don't know, but I'm trying to manage it as best I can and not have it be something I've wrought upon the world and is torpedoing healthy relationships. So I hope this has been illuminating. I want to know your thoughts about GRIMES. I can't even say it. I can't even say GRIMES. And Elon. I do think I like him. I don't want to date him, but you cannot argue with the fact that this man is achieving things no one else is achieving. And when people expect him to be warm and fuzzy, it's like, again, the gear switching does not happen when you operate at that level. It just doesn't. And there is something cool about that. Someone who has just switched themselves into this on mode of achievement and high level functionality and cutting and slashing and burning people who aren't serving and ruthlessness, that is impressive to me because it is so rare. Someone who bucks the trend of having to be warm and fuzzy and charming and accessible, but a fucking genius. Someone who's like, no, I'm just a genius. You don't like it? You're not coming to Mars. Tell me what you guys think. Would you want to go to space? I remember telling the guy I was dating, I'm like, I would rather go to Guantanamo Bay than space. You throw up and you have to swallow your toothpaste. Do you know that? And he was telling me that someone in one of their divisions was working basically poop vacuum. It's exactly what you're thinking. It's exactly what you're thinking. And I'm like, if this is your project that you're working on, I really don't. I need no follow-up details. We don't need to talk about your work at all. Anyway, not that I'm still in love with him or anything. Okay, I love you guys. I'll be back later. See you later, Shalligators.